So this is another of my favourite spots, and I'm just saying hello and saying I'm doing really well. I'm on day 12 now with the steroid taper and having a really good day actually. It's about 5 o'clock, the sun is setting and I've been up all day, been doing lots of stuff, gone to the shops, and things are really good. So just wanted to let you know that things are doing well still. So one thing that I wanted to talk about today in one of my videos is more of the underlying issues that can kind of be a sign that you could have arachnoiditis or you could be prone to arachnoiditis, and they can also be indicators that you might have arachnoiditis. So the first one I want to talk about is Tarlov cysts. Now, I learned I had Tarlov cysts because one day when I went to see my neurologist and he brought my MRI up, I saw on the MRI, it was an MR myelogram, so the spinal fluid was white. I saw that there was this funny ball thing in my sacrum, and my neurologist for a moment said, "Oh, what's that?" But then quickly moved on, probably because he didn't want to kind of bother me with what it could be. But it did bother me, so I looked it up and it sounded like and looked like it could be a Tarlov cyst. So when I got my scans, I actually asked the hospital, could this be a Tarlov cyst? And they went to the MDT, and it turned out that I do have at least one Tarlov cyst, although one doctor who looked at my scans thinks I have at least two. And actually, you know, when I've seen them, there seems to be more than just one kind of ball, as it were, of white. But Tarlov cysts, I'm always told, are incidental on scans. But since having been diagnosed with arachnoiditis and researching it, I find out that they're a key feature often of people with arachnoiditis, and some neurosurgeons actually call Tarlov cysts a form of arachnoiditis. So Tarlov cysts are cysts that grow because the spinal fluid kind of balloons from a nerve in your sacrum, and you get a ball of nerves that balloons with spinal fluid. Now, Tarlov cysts in themselves are not really incidental when it comes to spinal CSF leaks, because you can actually leak from Tarlov cysts. So they really should be noted on a patient that has a CSF leak or arachnoiditis. Another thing that we did discover from my CT myelogram, the one that I had a seizure from, now that was a CT myelogram that I had the contrast in and was scanned straight away, and then I was scanned 24 hours later. And back then my team used that type of CT myelogram to look for both fast and slow leaks. So my CT myelogram failed to show a spinal fluid leak at the time, but what it did show is that I have multiple MENINGEAL diverticula, which again are spinal fluid filled cysts coming from my nerve roots. So I have quite a number of them up my thoracic spine and I think into the cervical spine, the most prominent being at the top of my thoracic spine, which interestingly is also where we found that I have various bone spurs and prominent bone spurs. So again, these can be related to spinal fluid leaks because 30% of people leak from them. So at the time it was a interesting finding of the CT myelogram because it showed I could be leaking from those, although it seems probably more likely that it's a bone spur leak because they've seen free fluid now in my spine. So I have a lot of those cysts. The other thing I have is I have an arachnoid cyst in my brain, and that's been looked at an arachnoid cyst specialist neurosurgeon, but she thinks it's probably not symptomatic. But again, maybe I was born with it, or maybe it came from the accident, we don't know. The other thing I have is a small microedema, a cyst on my pituitary gland that was found as a finding of one of my MRIs. And so I was referred to endocrinology, and I've had various tests and they've been looking at it and think I was probably born with that. So that could be irrelevant. 1 in 5 people have those. But again, it might be a bigger picture of kind of neurological abnormalities. Now, interestingly, in my history, my family history, my mum very sadly died from after having surgery on a massive benign brain tumour, and that was the year before my accident. And neurosurgeons felt that she probably had that tumour growing for years, but it wasn't until she went on a long haul flight that the symptoms really came on, and she had MRIs and found that. But she died after complications from surgery, and we think sepsis after that surgery. Also, my dad has features that only in recent years we've realised could be in line with Marfan syndrome. Now that links in with me as well, because I take after him the most, and I am very tall and slim, and I have long limbs, thin arms, thin wrists, and also my dad has features of Marfan syndrome in the shape of his rib cage. His rib cage goes inwards. One of my sisters is partly hypermobile, although I've never been hypermobile at all. So maybe if there is Marfan syndrome in our family, it could be that is hiding partly in my spine. That's partly why I could have a weakness in my dura and my connective tissues, and why I probably have spinal cysts, mild scoliosis, and potentially what makes me more prone to spinal CSF leaks and arachnoiditis. So all these things are relevant and worth noting, that can be features that can make people more prone to it, and also can be features that might be there because of it. So that was what I wanted to talk about today. But today is a good day. 5 milligrams of prednisolone, 75 milligrams of diclofenac, 4.5 mil of LDN, and I've felt good today. Pain in my back is normal. At times my head is flared, but I've been doing very well.